As yet, no one has claimed responsibility for the attack. Nevertheless, one of the most deadly Al-Qaeda groups, AQAP, has been very active in Yemen over the past 2 years. AQAP has killed hundreds in assaults on government facilities, including a major attack on the Defence Ministry headquarters, leaving 56 people dead last month. It has also vowed to free imprisoned members of its network last year. This is far from the first major prison break in Yemen. In 2003, 11 Al-Qaeda militants were able to escape, including several perpetrators of the 2000 bombing of the USS Cole. A further 21 militants were able to flee from the intelligence prison in Sana'a by underground tunnel in 2006. This latest incident will certainly not allay fears that the central government, weakened since a popular uprising toppled President Ali Abdullah Saleh in 2011, is unable to contain the militants. Ed Holmes, Arise News.
And joining us now on the phone is our Yemen reporter Yusuf Mauri, live from Sana'a.
Yemen used to be a British colony, and in the New World Order joke, it was the Garden of Aden.
The prison have been arrested and are currently being questioned by some of the investigators. Now, according to Yemen's Interior Ministry, it was actually 29 inmates who escaped from the prison after a series of explosions and a series of crashes broke out inside and outside of the prison. Now, according to security officials, 19 to 20 inmates who escaped from the prison are known to be Al-Qaeda affiliates. And like I said, this is a prison which is known to hold top officials who are known to be affiliated with AQAP, who are Al-Qaeda affiliates, and they like to call themselves Ansar al-Sharia. And this is why some demonstrations have launched here in the capital, Sana'a, by Yemeni youth protesters who are calling for the complete reconstruction of the Yemeni security and armed forces. They believe that the Yemeni army is currently unstable because it is currently divided, as many of the army units remain loyal to members of the previous regime, which has aided to the security crisis and security meltdown.
It has on Google Maps a place in the wilderness called Mazrib.
Imprisoned about 3 years ago, people who were protesting on the streets about the government. Nothing to do with that and everything to do with Al-Qaeda.
Well, the demonstration which is taking place right now is by the youth revolutionaries, the peaceful youth. Well, the demonstration which is taking place right now is by the youth revolutionaries, the peaceful youth protesters. One of the main highlights of the Yemeni revolution was that it was a revolution which remained completely peaceful despite the brutal regime crackdown by Ali Abdullah Saleh, in which a number of youth activists were arrested. Throughout the past weeks, these demonstrations have called on the Yemeni government to immediately release the detained youth revolutionaries who remain behind bars and who remain unconvicted of any charges. So, however, I don't think that the attack had anything to do with the youth revolution or the protesters who are detained as a result of peaceful protests in 2011. This was, as I mentioned, an attack. Due to the nature of the attack, this could be an Al-Qaeda affiliated operation to release some of its members who have been detained there for many years and are convicted of terror charges.
Of course, and the youth group, the youth revolution group that you mentioned, they're planning a big protest today, starting right about now, I gather.
Yes, it is just ending right now, and actually the Nobel Peace Prize winner Khwaku Khanman, who was at the demonstration, she urged the Yemeni protesters to continue their revolution peacefully, to continue calling for the downfall of all corrupt remnants of the previous regime.
Check out the Bible
she mentioned
and
that
the Genesis story.
Main goal is to bring an end to corruption in all aspects of society and all aspects of the Yemeni government. And this was one of the main themes of the demonstration today, was the release of the peaceful youth protesters who are in prison, and to continue the Yemeni revolution by peaceful means.
And quickly, if you will, how does this all relate today, the demonstration, relate to the recent decision to partition the country into a federal state?
Well, the demonstration, there's two demonstrations which are taking place. The first demonstration, the demonstration which is taking place right now, is actually in support of the federal state. It is in support of the Yemeni government and in support of President Mansour Hadi's announcement to break Yemen into a federal state which consists of 6 autonomous regions. However, there's a demonstration another demonstration which is going to take place in about 3 hours from now. That's mainly going to consist of the Houthi protesters, the Shia Houthi protesters, and they're actually against the government and against the federal state, and they're actually calling for the downfall of this current government and the establishment of a new government which will consist of all factions of the Yemeni political spectrum.
All right, thank you very much indeed for those insights this morning. Yusuf Mawi reporting there from Sana'a. Let's take you on to Italy now, and Prime Minister.
So that is the Garden of Aden, now Yemen, being ripped apart by the BBC out of Britain.
In uncertainty, Renzi is already working on a new government.
And this is the EU template.
Relations between Mr. Letta and Mr. Renzi had become increasingly strained recently, with Renzi accusing the Prime Minister of neglecting the economy. Well, South Africa is a much better place to live in now than ever before. President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address last night focused on his party's achievements since the end of apartheid. But he did allow that there is still much work for the African National Congress to address poverty, inequality and unemployment as well.
And robbery by the IMF, which expanded the ghettos tenfold.
Into a general election on the 7th of May.
The election is less than 3 months away, and though there's no doubt his ANC party will win, President Jacob Zuma is on the back foot. Protests and political rallies ahead of the May 7th poll have been growing more and more violent. After 20 years in charge since apartheid ended, millions of black South Africans remain mired in poverty. There have been almost 3,000 so-called service delivery protests between November and January.
They're particularly worried that even before the explosion in service delivery protests, they already thought that there would be a decline in their support, at least in certain areas, which is why I think this is probably going to be the most fiercely contested election campaign in 20 years.
Mining is a large part of the South African economy and demonstrates how little progress has been made here in 2 decades. The industry has been crippled by strikes recently, with many miners part of a century-old migrant labour system.
We need a mining sector that works. Mining employs over 500,000 people. We are exploring partnerships with stakeholders to address the issue of housing in mining towns.
His speech also referenced inequality in the Rainbow Nation. It's another issue working against the ANC, particularly as questions have been asked over his $20 million homestead built at taxpayers' expense. But for all the discontent, millions of black South Africans remain loyal to the ruling party for its role in defeating apartheid and for the lack of credible alternatives. The subtext then of Jacob Zuma's speech is that his party will win, but with a reduced majority. Aaron Safir, Arise News.